All right, so The Blind Side came
Man.
out in 2009. It is
Mm-hmm.
2023, and
Mm-hmm.
Michael Oher is filing a petition against the Tua family, that and alleging that the movie is that depicted his life. Again, The Blind Sides. The central story is not true at all. The family never
Mm-hmm.
actually adopted him. Michael Orr
Mm-hmm.
claims that the Tua family tricked him into signing paperwork that granted them conservatorship,
Mm-hmm.
which allowed them to make business deals in his namesake and profit off of him along with their biological children, but he never saw a dime. Six, what was your reaction when you first saw this?
Now, one of my reactions was, I loved the movie when it came out. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like Sandra Bullock did a damn good job of depicting, the mother, and Leanne Tui was the star of that movie. I mean, although Michael Orr was the story that was going on about, Leanne was the star because Sandra Bullock did a hell of a job playing that part. But I loved the movie. I mean, I've watched the movie a few times now. When I as looking back, of course, hindsight is always 2020. So looking back, you can kind of tell that the movie, when I first watched it, bro, I was saying 24 years old, and I saw it in the movie theater, and I was like, oh, this is an amazing movie. You know what I'm saying? Just looking at it, but after watching it a couple of times, the more you watch it and the more you look into it, you kind of see a couple of things. And now that this story is coming out 14 years later, you can kind of look back and say, you know what, it did seem kind of fabricated. It did make it seem like, you know, they did a lot more for this young man, and they told a lot more of the Tui family story than they told about the actual story of Michael Orr. And if you let Michael Orr tell it, which I'm pretty sure he knows a lot more about his own life than the Tuies did, it wasn't as bad as they made it seem. He wasn't as dumb as they made him seem. He didn't need that kind of guidance from Leanne on the field to show him how to block somebody, or he wasn't as dumb as they made him seem. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the story was very much fabricated to make the Tui family seem better than they were, and they definitely 100% profited off of his own story. And and I didn't know up until recently, whenever because he reported this back in February, saying that
February, yep.
they never said, they never adopted me. Whenever I signed that, whenever they tricked me into signing that conservatorship, I was 18 years old. I was a grown man. I could make my own decisions for myself. You know what I'm saying? And they tricked him into going to their alma mater. They took a lot of the shine whenever he got drafted in the first round. They were on court, on the stage with him, and the mother, father, and the little brother. Like it was a lot going on that they kind of took advantage. That it seems like, allegedly they took advantage of, which of course they're trying to say it was a shakedown. That this is a shakedown effort by Michael Orr to get $15 million out of them. But if he was treating them in the sign of conservatorship, and he's never seen any of the residual or any of the profit from the movie or the books or the nonprofit organizations that they took out from the family that they created from the movie, then he's deserving of the way that they profited off of his story and his name. So if he's never gotten anything up to this 14 years, then he deserves this 15 million, because you're getting this money off of a story that you sold as a book and then a movie. So I feel like he's right for putting the story out the way that he is now. And I wish he would have said something sooner than now, because now it does seem kind of, this is me playing devil's advocate. It does seem kind of slight as to how he's going about it now, over a decade later. But he also said that he was just trying to be quiet about it. They did do a lot for him, so he didn't want to. But it's only so much that a man can take whenever it's damaging your own personal image. So I feel like he's right about doing it. What you think, D'Lo?
I don't know how much it damaged his personal image, but when I first saw this, I was ready to go in on Michael Orr. Like you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
it's been almost 15 years since the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And 20 plus years since you signed that well, 19 years since you
Mm-hmm.
signed that paperwork to grant them conservatorship. So I was ready
Quote
to
unquote,
go
yeah.
in, but what I what I reading after reading the story, what I found out was that he was tricked. And sometimes when you sign stuff at a young age, we all were young and dumb and naive. We felt like, in his case, he felt like he was being brought into the family. He was going to
Mm-hmm.
officially be a member of the family. Like you said, they did so much for him in his time in high school and all that. So he felt like he was going to be official of the family, official member of the family. So
Mm-hmm.
the reason I digressed and the reason I didn't go in on him, or am not going to go in on him, is because when in reading this story, he truly was tricked, and it
Mm-hmm.
first was reported, or he first said something about it in February. And so when you're tricked, sometimes you don't want to let people know that you were that gullible. And sometimes you don't want to let people know that you had been had. And so it's hard to come
Mm-hmm.
out especially a man. It's hard to come out as a man and say, "Dang, these people got me," and now I need to fight to get my name back because they profited off of me. They now have foundations. They write books. The Blind Side came out. They made money from that. They continue to get royalties from that. Their children have profited from it, but I haven't gotten a dime off of
A
them
dime.
using my name. So it's hard to admit that. And now that he's retired, and now that he can actually, give his energy to it, he's coming out and say, "Hey, listen, this isn't true. Like, I thought I was being adopted by these individuals, but I really wasn't. They took ownership of me so they can make decisions in my name or for me and take money for using my name." A great example of this is Britney Spears. Ironically, we were talking about her before we got on the call. Britney Spears just got out of a conservatorship two
Mm-hmm.
years ago. She's
Yep.
41 years old. Her father has had conservatorship over her since she was 16, I believe, and has
Mm-hmm.
been controlling what she can and cannot do with her money, what she can and cannot do online, which is why Plies is watching her videos of her dancing half naked, because she hasn't been able to do that up until she got the conservatorship terminated. So now
Mm-hmm.
she's doing what she wants to. I mean, she's been a little bit,
She's been
a little out there.
a little
Yeah,
weird here recently. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
she's been a little out there before 2021, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely the conservatorship is something that is. I don't know how you allow that to happen. I don't know how I shouldn't say I don't know how the government allows it to happen, but if somebody's able-bodied
That's what I was gonna
and
say. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sane in the mind, you shouldn't. Nobody should be able to sign over their rights to say, okay, these people are responsible for making business decisions for me while I'm able to make decisions for myself. Should not allow to be happen. Now, if you have some disability or something like that, then I can
Mm-hmm.
understand that. But being able-minded and able-bodied should not have nobody should have the ability to do that unless you just can't do it on your own whatsoever. But it's all if it's a way to do it. If it's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
And I don't think this
He
is
had he had plenty of will. He had plenty of will. He was gonna make a way because he was he was destined from the beginning. And a lot of the story the Michael Oher story was left out of the book and the movie anyway, because it wasn't as if he was impoverished, and he was one of the kids that didn't have much, but he wasn't technically homeless. He was staying with an uncle of his anyway. So
Mhm.
that's a part of the story that was left out. But he didn't have much. He didn't have really a lot of means to live out his dream of playing football. He didn't really know where his next meal was going to come from. He didn't know how he was going to get to school. He didn't know a lot of things. He was, he came from the slums for real. And
Mhm.
shout out to the Tuohys for giving him the opportunity, but shame on them for taking advantage of that opportunity, because it's one thing to have the kindness of your heart to do something, but it's another thing to actually use that to your own advantage and profit off of something, and then the thing that you profit off of, you don't give any credit to. So it's like it's just weird. Like it's very conniving and it's very trifling for them to do that. Now, they're trying to make it seem like they, you know, we're helping Michael in a lot of different, because I wonder how this conservatorship thing works, man. Because is it one of those things where they can make decisions about like his contract negotiations once he got to the NFL? Is it one of those things where, you know, if he wants to invest, they have to talk to the Tuohys first? If it's, you know, where he wants to save his money, how he wants to, like, because it sounds like the way it sounds is anything he wanted to do with his bread, they had to consult the Tuohys first. And if he went through this his entire NFL career and never said anything and never did anything, bro, that's your fault, to be perfectly honest. Now, that's his fault. But in the sense of the blind side and the residuals and some of that income that he could have made while he was still playing off of that movie, then that's on the Tuohys, and they shouldn't have took advantage of that at all. Like, is that how that works? I'm thinking that's how that works.
And so I think that's what makes this situation and this makes this whole ordeal complex, is because that is how it works. Like I said, Britney Spears' father controlled everything that she was able to do.
Yep.
He controlled her bank accounts, or he can. The money went to him first, and then he gave it to her. He told her what she could and could not do online and all that stuff. But I don't think the Tuohys did that with Michael Oher. I think he was able to hire a manager and I'm not a manager.
Financial advisors.
No, an agent. He was able to hire
an agent. There you go. Okay,
and they would be able to, work out the contracts and on their own and for Michael Oher. But the Tuohys never really got involved. The thing that they did was they had the conservatorship of Michael Oher, but they were able to use his name to start business deals. So they were saying, okay, yeah, like with the foundation and stuff like that, or with the Blind Side. Okay, listen, Michael is our child. This is our story. This is what we want to do. How can you help us get there? Businesses fell in love with the story since they had the right to use his name. They were able to, and they profited off of it. But I don't think that they actually got involved with telling him what he could and could not do with his money, how to where the money should go, stuff like that. But that is what conservatorship is. They make those decisions for you.
And and that makes sense in Britney Spears' situation, where she was 16 as a minor, didn't have that conservatorship. But once she's 18 or maybe 21, then you got to turn that conservatorship off and give her, she's an adult now. But Michael Oher was already quote unquote an adult whenever this conservatorship was signed. So there should have been no reason why he should have been in that conservatorship in the first place. But again, when you're young and you have love for somebody who's been helping you or has perceived to been helping you for so long, through high school and, to get in college, to get to the place that you are now, they gave you more love than some people ever gave you before. Sometimes you have that kind of trust in some people that they're not going to do you dirty, but you can never put anything past anybody. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, and there is a saying that sometimes your family can be your worst enemies. Keep your enemies close, keep your family close, but your enemies closer. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it'll be your own people who do you wrong. So I mean, you got to make sure you stay to it, though. Yeah, it is a whole lot more to it, but I do agree with Michael Oher coming out and saying this now. It may be too little, too late, but I don't want to think it is, but it may be too. 14 years is a long time. Almost 15 years is a long time for you to finally come out and say, "Man, this is a lie." And now people looking at you sideways like,
I think the initial response of everybody is like, bro, you waited this long. But like I said, if you actually dig into it and read the story, he was tricked. And I don't know exactly when he found out that he was not actually adopted by them and it was just strictly a conservatorship. But, like you said, he mentioned back in February, or he brought it up. It wasn't public yet, but he had brought it up back in February. So
maybe that's when he found out.
Maybe that's when he actually found out and was like, wait a minute, nah, I'm not actually a part of your family. Okay, well then let me say something, because I mean everybody knew Michael Oher was good in college, but everybody knew who he was because of the Blind Side. Like he was his status was a little bit more elevated because of The Blind Side. And like I said, he
Mm-hmm.
was a good prospect, but it made him that much more of a better prospect because he had this story behind him that
Mm-hmm.
was, being played out on movie screens across the world. And then at the same time, he was still playing at Ole Miss. The reason why I say it's a little bit more to it, though, is because, and it's the last thing I'll say, but because the reason that, quote unquote, and I don't know this, but this is what's being said, that they had him sign the conservatorship in the first place is because they were boosters of Ole Miss, and they didn't want any.
That would make sense.
And,
Yeah.
and because they were helping him, they didn't want any type of infractions to come against Ole Miss and then also against Michael himself. So it is a complex situation,
It is.
and I'm not letting them off the hook because they could, if that was the case, they could have just simply explained it to him. Like you said, the movie portrayed him as being helpless and dumb and naive, but I don't think he was that dumb where you couldn't explain to him, hey Michael, this is what's going on. We've been taking care of you, and now that you are at Ole Miss, some things have come out that we want to kind of nip in the bud. So this is what we're doing. Not signing a conservatorship saying, hey, I know we've taken care of you for this amount of time, but now we want to adopt you and make this thing official so that there is no allegations, there is no skepticism about our relationship and why you actually went to Ole Miss.
For sure. And again, if it, that makes a lot of sense. If you put it that way, the conservatorship makes sense for different infractions and stuff like that. Because there's been a long time about people getting suspended or people losing eligibility because they're getting paid by boosters and stuff like that. And if they are boosters, then that could be a sort of payment without any adoption, right? So that would make sense in there. But if the movie portrayed them signing adoption papers, but for it coming out of them signing conservatorship papers, and Michael didn't know that until February, then I can see why he's bringing that up. But it is a complex situation to where that you can go on both sides. You can see pros and cons of each, but I'm still on the side of Michael. Like, yeah, you need to, especially with the whole residual from the movie and the books and the I'm on the side of Michael. Like, bro, get your bread, because you deserve that. They profited off of your name and your story. So if they didn't give you anything from that, you deserve some of that bread. Like, it makes absolutely no sense why you're not getting none. So, hey, man, we'll see what happens from that. We'll see what happens.
I expect that they will, because they already have come out and said they're going to go ahead and terminate the conservatorship. I think Michael will. He probably won't be happy with that. He'll try to gain access to all of the foundations and the different business deals that they had that included his name, and try to reap some of those profits that they had in the past.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he'll things will look up for him. I think it's going to be kind of like a 50-50 kind of thing where, they both come to an agreement and he may get something from it, but I don't think it's going to be the 15 million that he actually came out and said that he wanted. But I think it'll be, I think they'll come to an agreement where both parties are happy, and Michael will be able to get his story out there eventually, and maybe he might make a blind side too with the true story. Who knows? But we'll see what happens from there. We'll see what happens from that.
A ESPN 30 for 30.
Gotta be one of those. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it this far and you like what you see, there's a video on the screen right here. I think you might like this one as well. And also, you can find us on all your streaming platforms, wherever you find your podcast.